So in my last video, I talked about how I started making a powder coating oven. I started working on the video like 2 years ago, but I've lost all the clips of me taking it apart. Essentially, all it is it's an oven that I had. It was a combination with a microwave, and the microwave was bad. And essentially, everything that I want to do in here is going to be tall, so I put it on its side. And there's just little wheels down there. Obviously, the wheels are not, like, permanent. Definitely going to have to redo some stuff on there. And if I open the door all the way here, it tilts forward. So that definitely needs to be addressed. Before I get too far along, though, I'm going to deal with this mess and replace the 20 amp 240 volt receptacle with a 30 amp 240 volt receptacle. Shouldn't be that hard. When I installed that plug originally, I used 10 gauge wire, so everything's already ready for 30 amp. I just didn't have the breaker before. So one thing I just realized is I probably should have used a slightly different outlet. Now, this is made for 2 hots and a neutral. I'm not using it in this configuration. I'm doing 2 hots and a ground because for my circuits, I don't need any neutrals. That's exactly the way that one was set up. So it's just a matter of removing the cables and putting them on this one. Now, on this panel, it really may not even matter because it was wired up in an old way where even though it's a sub panel, the ground and the neutrals are all bonded. So, and like I'm going like 3 feet maximum for that. So my ground is really a neutral anyway. So what we've got going on here, I've got my breaker here, which I'm going to double check, make sure that we are completely off, and then swap it out. Now that I have it pulled out, I can check and make sure that none of my leads are energized. This has a non-contact voltage setting, and I can check to make sure this is working by checking a live circuit. But yeah, I am clear and good to go and safe. I finally got the plug installed. I should point out one very important thing though. Now that I have the cover back on the non-contact voltage setting, it doesn't really work well at all. So just keep that in mind. Worst case scenario, you can always just do the regular probes. And now we just have to put the breaker in. So here you can see the panel without the cover. Now, it's pretty old. It's a little rusty. I've actually got 10 gauge wire on my 20 amp plug, 120 volt plug socket, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. You can see where they have the grounds and the neutrals all bonded in the panel, which is a little unfortunate. And my lead in, I don't think I actually have... Yeah, so it's like an 8-3 wire, I think, to a 40 amp. Oh gosh, yeah, okay. It's 40 amp on the main panel. It's got a 100 amp breaker here. So that's not the greatest. And realistically, I could just shut the breaker off here and be mostly alright, but I think I'm going to go and go inside the house and turn off the breaker there just to keep me perfectly safe. So now that I have everything shut off, I can just remove the breaker. And these just take a little bit of an effort to get out of here. Actually, it's been a minute since I've removed any of these. There we go. There we go. And now I'll just clip the 30 amp in and get the wires hooked up. Now I'm going to do that off camera just so it's easier. 30 amps in. We're all set up, so I guess it's just time to work on the oven now. I went ahead and flipped the oven. First thing I wanted to take care of on the oven itself was the mounting system that I have for the wheels. Now, this side is fine. This side, I think the self-tappers didn't go in all the way. It really is just reused piece from microwave spacer, obviously on the bottom instead of the top now. And what I'm going to do to make it a little bit stronger is I've got these pieces of angle iron that I got from a bed frame. And I am just going to spot weld them in place right there. I'll correct myself now. I meant to say tack weld, not spot weld. And I don't want to zoom in on any of my horrible welding. It's going to hold. It's tons more solid than it was. So besides putting a couple sheet metal screws in, this is done. Though, when I sanded down the sides, obviously this is zinc coated. Not good to weld on. I missed in this spot and a couple over there. So there's, I'm going to let the fumes die down, and then I'll get back to this. When it comes down to it, this is all we really need electronics-wise. I have a double pole switch, a thermal switch that I can set it to up to 300 degrees Celsius, and, you know, a regular thermometer. Now, this, all it really does is it detects that it gets up to a certain temperature and then shuts off. That's all that does. So I'm only going to use one out of the two heating elements because of power consumption. And I went ahead and this is thermal resistant wire. I'm going to go ahead and reuse this one. I've also got the existing like shields for the metal or for the casing. The only thing I'm going to modify is I'm going to take a armored metal connector, and I'm going to attach it right on here so I can have the wire go straight up to this. And I'll leave myself a little bit of slack because I don't know exactly how I want to mount this exactly yet. It's a little hard to see, but I got the temperature probe mounted now. I went ahead and just took out that original element because, like I said, I'm only going to use that guy because it's properly mounted. And I used the existing hole for the temperature probe. So that part's done. The wire comes out the back. I put all the extra slack for that temperature wire. Goes into here, which I do have a second cover that is going to be placed right here. I'll mount that in a second. Armored cable goes up to the box, and I still have to put on the extension cord real quick. I just finished getting all the wires together and I realized I have the wrong box. I needed the type with the screws on the outside, not the regular kind of switch screws. Though it might not be the greatest form of judgment, I went ahead and did a spark test just to make sure the temperature gauge and everything works. And breaker's on, extension cord's plugged in, power's on, I set to 100 degrees C, and I can feel the heat. Yep, we are going. So I'm going to run that for a couple minutes. I got the fire extinguisher standing by, and so far so good. We're another day in, and I finally got the box all rewired. I had to take the whole thing apart. Now I went ahead and turned it on again. I am at 175 degrees Celsius, which I believe should get me around 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We've got everything running. I did notice one thing. I'll have to adjust the door. Right at the seam right here, I can feel hot air coming out. So that's something to address. And I still haven't fixed the issue where if I open the door all the way and I'm not careful, it's going to fall. So I'll probably just put weight in the back to redistribute, and that should fix the issue. I'm going to use this as my first powder coating test. I left this pipe wrench outside for a couple weeks, and going to do a little electrolysis on it first. 12 hours later, it did most of the work, taking off the rust, but I'm going to throw it in my sandblaster just to take care of the rest. It's not completely perfect now, but it's good enough for the test. I mean, there's a couple small, like, really fine flakes. Oh, they're, like, right... Crocus. Like, there's a speck of red there, but it's fine. I'm going to paint it a color. Don't know what yet. I almost overlooked it, but I went ahead and put a bar on the top of here Just added some scrap steel that I had. That way I can hang up whatever I'm powder coating. It shouldn't come as a surprise that I chose blue, because my only other options right now is white and black. So that's going to be the one thing that I'll be able to see. So I had to get a little creative. Hopefully that clip holds during the heat. I know it's just a spring clip. And then that spot I'm going to just sand down anyway to make it nice. But we'll throw them in and see how it goes. Got them both in. Hopefully when I opened the door there it didn't wiggle around too much. But we just have to wait and see how it goes. So there you have it. The completed project. Went ahead and just wire brushed that, whatever you call that, the nut. And then just sanded that part down. I mean, obviously it's not perfect. I missed a spot somewhere in here. Yeah, there, you can kind of see it on camera. Not so much, but yeah. I mean, compared to what it was, it's perfect. And the oven works. So that means I just have to spend the rest of the day, you know, cleaning up all my junk.